He knew exactly where I'd get off the train, even when I changed lines twice. That detail still makes me feel sick. Not his face, not his jacket. The fact he knew my pattern better than I did. Late shift, last metro, I stank of beer and fryer oil and just wanted my usual dead ride home. Car mostly empty, that hour where people stare at phones or sleep. I took the same seat as always, leaned on the window, headphones in with no music, just a don't talk to me sign. Then my back started buzzing, that wired feeling you get when someone watches you. I looked at the opposite window, at the reflection of the car. That's where I saw him. Older, office type, tote bag, phone in his hand. Normal enough if you glance once. But he wasn't looking down, his eyes aimed at the glass, using it like a mirror, tracking the whole car without turning his head. Every tunnel flash turned the window into a clear mirror, and every time, his gaze lined up with my seat. It looked casual, but it wasn't. He shifted his phone, adjusted a little, kept that same angle. Not glaring, not smiling. Just fixed. My stop crept closer on the LED strip. Usually that's when my shoulders drop. Instead, my chest tightened like someone hooked a wire through it. In the reflection, I watched him move his bag, lean forward, plant his feet toward the doors. The door's right where I normally get off. 3 seconds before the train stopped, something in me said, don't. I stayed seated. The doors opened at my station. Cold air hit my face. The platform I knew by heart slid into view, and I didn't move. He didn't either. He stood there, ready, then didn't get off. My stop slid away behind us. When the doors closed, my brain split. Either I was paranoid as hell, or this man knew my routine and wanted me to know he knew. 2 stations later, I jumped up, got off, crossed to the opposite platform, and took a completely different line back toward the city. A move nobody makes by accident. He switched too, not right behind me, never close enough to grab. Always just far enough that if I turned and called him out, I'd sound unhinged. But every time the windows turned reflective, there he was again in the glass. Same bag, same coat, same patient tilt his head like he had all night. I changed cars mid-ride. He waited 1 stop, then changed as well. I pretended to dig through my bag so he'd pass. He stopped too, suddenly interested in an ad. Our eyes met in the reflection. He didn't flinch or look away. He just held it calm, almost bored like this was a game and I was the only one not in on the rules. By the time I picked some random station to actually get off, sweat glued my shirt to my spine. I stepped out fast, hit the stairs 2 at a time. At street level, I cut through a convenience store, watched the entrance in the convex mirror while pretending to grab a drink. Nothing. Outside, I took the long way home, doubled back twice, crossed streets at the last second. Every footstep behind me turned my neck into stone. No sign of him. No yaki, no totebak. My building finally came into view and my legs wanted to sprint and fold all at once. I shoved the door open, slipped inside, waited for the heavy metal click as it latched. That sound felt like armor. My phone buzzed. I already knew it wouldn't be a friend. It felt like the universe clearing its throat. I pulled out anyway. Reddit DM, throwaway account, no posts. The preview said, "You walked too fast on the last leg." I opened it. "You walked too fast on the last leg." Almost ate shit on the 3rd stare. My whole body went cold. That stare, the one with the broken edge on my entrance. I complained about it on the city subreddit a few days earlier. Quick rant about the 3rd stair in my building being busted and trying to murder me. No address, no picture, nothing that should have pinned down where I lived. He knew it. He watched me hit that stair. He knew how I moved on the last stretch home. I blocked him instantly, thumb shaking so hard I nearly missed the button. That didn't undo anything. I stood in my hallway, listening for footsteps on the other side of the door. I called a friend, tried to explain while pacing my tiny place and checking the peephole every 30 seconds. She told me to call the police, to document everything. I nodded into the phone and didn't sleep at all. I lay there in my jeans with the lights on, heart racing at every pipe noise. Next day, new DM, different throwaway, same empty profile. "Relax. I'm just making sure you get home safe. Same time tonight." Relax. Like I should be grateful. Like he was my personal escort, not some creep who tracked my route and my building for fun. I screenshotted everything. Usernames, timestamps, my stair post, all of it. Printed the screenshots at work and took them to the transit police kiosk. That glass booth at the main station you usually ignore. I slid the papers under the gap and told the guy everything fast before I lost my nerve. Last train, car hopping, the reflections, the DMs about my stairs. He glanced, not really reading, asked if the guy had touched me. No. Threatened me directly. No. Talked to me in person. No. Just followed, watched, knew where I lived, and felt entitled enough to joke about it. He shrugged, the kind of shrug you give when the printer jams. Block and report, he said. Try not to ride alone so late. Until he lays a hand on you or makes a clear threat, there's not much we can do. If something happens, call 911. If something happens, not if he does something, if something happens to me, like the bruises would be the real beginning, and everything before was just build up. I walked out of there burning with shame and rage. At him, for turning my commute into his little hunt. At them, for waiting for blood. At myself, for testing him that first night instead of pointing straight at him in a crowded car and saying, loud enough for everyone, this guy keeps following me, just to drag it into the open. After that, I did exactly what they said and way more. I changed my routine until my whole life bent around avoiding him. No more last metro. I begged my manager to move my shifts. When she barely tried, I started paying for rides I couldn't afford, asking friends to walk me, skipping plans if they ran late. My world shrank down to lit streets and familiar faces. Any man standing at the wrong angle on a train sent my heart straight into my throat. The DM stopped eventually, or maybe he just got smarter. I still saw him in every reflection. Not his actual face, just that posture, that patience. Every time a guy stared into the window instead of his phone, my body flooded with that same electric dread. So I did more than switch lines. I left the job, and when my lease ended, I packed my crap and left the city. People called it a brave move, new chapter, all that shit. I let them think that. It sounded better than some asshole on the train mapped my life so well I had to disappear to breathe again. To the fucker who treats women like side quests on his commute, I changed lines, jobs, and cities. You won't get a round two. Let's not meet. My chill roommate ran a subreddit where strangers rated the way I breathe in my sleep. He was perfect on paper, paid on time, washed dishes quiet, barely spoke, always had those huge headphones on, always mixing tracks on his laptop. I liked it. The constant little beat leaking under his door made the apartment feel less empty, like having a TV on in the background of your life. It felt safe. That's the part that makes me sick now. I only found out because the Wi-Fi tanked one night. I was trying to finish work, everything lagged like hell, so I logged into the router to boot off whoever was stealing our internet. The landlord never changed the default password. I expected to see half the building on there. Instead, 2 devices, Mine, and one labeled Studio, his. For a minute, I almost closed the tab. Then I noticed the stats. My usage was normal. His had massive spikes every single night between 3 and 5 a.m. Not downloads, uploads, terabytes, literally, to these random IPs that meant nothing to me. No Netflix, no Spotify, just raw addresses. I stared at that graph with this weird buzzing in my head, telling myself, he's a producer, he sends big project files, relax. But the time window matched exactly when I'd be unconscious in my room, lights off, mouth open, dead to the world. I told myself I was being paranoid and shut the laptop, but the thought stuck like a splinter. A couple days later, I dropped a pen in the hallway. Stupid little thing. It rolled against the baseboard by my bedroom door and stopped like it hit something. I bent down to grab it and saw this tiny, perfect hole drilled through the wood. Not a crack, not where. A clean, round hole aimed straight toward my bed. My brain tried to file it under old building weirdness, but I took out my phone, turned on the flashlight, and looked closer. Inside, behind the paint, I saw metal mesh, a tiny grill, and behind that, plastic. I'm meek. A fucking microphone stuck inside my wall, with a thin cable running along the inside of the baseboard toward his room. My whole body went cold in 1 second. I just knelt there, staring at it, replaying every night I'd cried in the dark, every time I'd argued with someone on the phone, every nightmare I'd had alone in that room, and thought at least no one hears this. I didn't touch it right away. I stood up, shut my door, and sat on my bed listening. Suddenly, the apartment felt loud in a different way. Pipes, neighbors, his footsteps, traffic outside. All of it felt like cover for something else. After a while, I heard his shower start. The bathroom fan in that place screamed like a dying animal, so I knew he couldn't hear much over it. I waited until the water ran steady. Then I walked straight into his room. I'd never been in there. Mattress on the floor, half-stuck acoustic foam, cables everywhere, that little audio interface, laptop on a stand. It smelled like detergent and old coffee. His laptop screen was on, no password. Reddit open. His main account looked boring. Music subs, plugins, gear. I almost backed out like I made all of this up. Then I saw a different username in the corner, an alt with numbers and no avatar. When I clicked, the whole front page changed. The top subreddit name hit me like a slap. Something about unaware audio. Fetish crap wrapped in fake art. Rules about real recordings only. No consent, no stage stuff. Bragging about authenticity like they were doing a service. The top post was mine. Roommate sleeps with her mouth open. 27M roommate captures every sound. Black thumbnail. Length, 10:13. My hands tingled. I clicked play. For 10 minutes, I listened to myself sleep. Bed creaks I recognized. The soft, ugly snore I always hated. Little mumbles that didn't sound like words, but apparently were enough for strangers to analyze. At 7:32, my breathing stuttered. I heard myself make this helpless, tiny sound, the kind you don't even know you make when you're about to cry. The comments were full of timestamps and sick praise. That hitch at 7:32 is insane. You can tell she's having a nightmare. This is so raw. They talked about my unconscious body like I was some kind of toy. I scrolled and saw more posts about me. She talks in her sleep sometimes, he'd written, caught her begging for someone last night. People in the comments joked about what I'd been through, as if my trauma was flavor. I didn't even remember the dream. They remembered it for me. Then there were older posts, tagged months before I moved in. Couple upstairs going at it, paper walls, FTW. 10 minutes of my old neighbors having sex. Every moan and laugh, the bed hitting the wall. Kid next door, panic attack, wild hyperventilating patterns. I knew that kid. I'd heard him cry through the walls sometimes and felt bad for him. My roommate heard him and hit record. He'd posted our neighbors arguing, too, labeled by apartment number and floor, talking about their voices like instruments. He had a whole catalog of this building's private breakdowns. He never touched me. As far as I know, he never went into my room. He didn't need to. He slid into the gaps, walls, vents, cables, and used them like veins. No fingerprints, just mics and files and people online rating how pure it all sounded. I took screenshots of everything. His username, the post with my age and roommate, the tag with our address hidden in the comments, the router screen with his 3 to 5 a.m. upload spikes. I emailed them to myself because suddenly I didn't trust anything that stayed only inside that apartment. Then I heard the water shut off. My heart jumped into my throat. I closed his browser, nudged the laptop back where it had been, and bolted to my room. That was when I finally yanked the mic out of the wall. It fought for a second, then snapped free with a cheap plastic pop. I stuffed it in my pocket and locked my door. I packed in under an hour. I didn't fold anything, just crammed clothes into trash bags, grabbed my documents, laptop, medication, whatever cash I had, all with that tight feeling in my chest like he could hear every zip and rustle through some hidden channel. I thought about calling the cops, but I pictured the conversation. So he recorded you breathing? I pictured him shrugging. I pictured him smiling, saying it was just art, just ambient sound, no nudity, no harm done. I didn't have the stamina to fight that. So I went practical and mean. I texted the landlord that there was a major leak in my ceiling and maybe mold, and I needed out or my lawyer dad would get involved. Total lie. When he pushed back, I sent him a couple screenshots. Not the fetish comments, just the fact that his tenant ran wires and devices through the walls and posted recordings labeled with the building's address. The man called me within seconds, all stuttering, and "we'll fix this quietly, and no need to make a scene." I told him I was gone in the morning, and he could keep the deposit if he wanted. I just wanted my body and my breathing to be mine again. I left that night. I couldn't stay one more second with that guy on the other side of the wall, maybe scrolling through reactions to my nightmares. I crashed on a friend's couch. I ripped open every smoke detector she had to check for cameras, checked behind her outlets, ran my fingers along the baseboards like some paranoid freak. She laughed at first, then she saw my face and stopped. People act like I overreact. He didn't touch you, they say. He didn't see you naked, as if there's some acceptable level of violation. They don't get it. He stole the one thing you can't hide behind clothes or locks, the way your body sounds when it forgets to be guarded. Now I sleep with a fan on and white noise blaring because silence feels like a mouth held shut while someone leans in to listen. I realized someone had been inside my apartment while I was showering because they were more careful closing my closet than I ever am. Small place, bad habits. I dump work clothes on the chair, leave the hallway closet door hanging half open over the shoe pile. It always sticks on the rug, so it never closes all the way. That crooked gap is part of the apartment in my head, like the squeaky board by the window. That night, I came home wrecked, the kind of tired where you miss your stop. I should have locked the door right after I walked in, but my brain was mush. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my boots, and went straight to the bathroom. No music, no TV, just pipes and my own headache. Front door stayed unlocked. I knew better. I just didn't care. I let the shower run hot until my fingers wrinkled and my head finally went quiet. 10 minutes, maybe a little more. Just enough time to forget the door, the city, everything. I stepped down in a towel, wiped the mirror, opened the bathroom door, and my body stopped like I'd hit a wall. Nothing looked trashed. Nothing moved, but the hallway felt wrong. The closet door sat flush in the frame. No vap, no lean. Perfect. That door doesn't do perfect. The rug always catches. You have to yank it, and it still bounces back half an inch. I stared and tried to reorder my memory. Maybe I'd shut it for once. Maybe the wood swelled. My brain threw out excuses while my gut said, "No, you know how your own place behaves." I walked up anyway, because what else was I going to do? Sleep next to a mystery? I put my damp hand on the knob. The metal felt cold, serious. I pulled it open. All my shoes sat lined up heel to toe, laces tucked in. Every pair. Boots, sneakers, the beat-up flats I only wear on laundry days. They faced forward like they were posing. I don't line up shoes. I kick them off while I'm scrolling and trip over them later. On top of the middle pair lay my spare key. Not inside the old boot where I hide it, not shoved down into the toe, but dead center on the shoes like a little note that just said, "I was here." My heart did this ugly stutter in my chest. Someone had taken their time. They'd gone through my crap slowly enough to find the key, then decided to show me they knew where it lived. For a second, I just stood there dripping on the floor, towel, slipping, brain white noise. Then everything hit at once. Naked, wet, stranger maybe still here, door still unlocked. My hand shook so hard, I almost dropped my phone, tried to grab it off the sink. I backed into the bathroom without remembering crossing the hallway and locked it, like that flimsy door would stop anyone who just rearranged my life. I dialed 911 with clumsy fingers and told the operator, "Someone's been in my apartment." She asked if the person was still inside. I said I didn't know, which felt worse than yes. I listened while I waited. No footsteps, no breathing, nothing scraping. Just a fan and the blood thumping in my ears. Every second stretched. When a knock finally came and they shouted, "Police," my knees almost gave out. 2 cops swept the place. They checked under the bed, behind a shower curtain I just stood behind, inside the little kitchen cabinets, even the fire escape. No one. No marks on the front door, no bent lock, no broken latch. The older one shrugged. Maybe a maintenance guy came by and straightened up. He said, "You should lock up when you're home alone." The younger one looked around my mess like that explained everything. "Maintenance doesn't know about my spare key," I said. My voice sounded thin and crazy. They left me with a case number, and that was it. After they were gone, the silence came back twice as heavy. Every corner felt used. Next morning, I went to management. The woman at the desk tapped her keyboard while I asked who had been in my unit. "No one was scheduled," she said. "No maintenance, no pest control. If you're worried, you can change your locks. We don't cover that. So somebody can just wander in with a master key and you'll shrug?" I asked. She rolled her eyes like I was the problem. I walked out before I called her a useless bitch. That night, I locked the front door. Deadbolt and chain. I dragged a chair under the handle. I checked the closet 3 times, left the door hanging open like always, shoes kicked everywhere, key back in the boot. I took pictures this time, just in case. I still couldn't bring myself to shower. I wiped down at the sink and tried to sleep with the lamp on. Every noise hit hard. The radiator hissing, someone upstairs dropping something, a car door slamming outside. I lay there until dawn, slept maybe an hour, and woke up feeling stupid and wired. The next day, I moved through work on autopilot. By the time I got home, I'd almost convinced myself I'd overreacted. Nothing had happened while I was actually in bed. The closet thing could have been some bored maintenance guy they'd forget to admit. 2 nights later, I woke up to a sound I knew too well. Wood brushing wood, slow and careful. My eyes snapped open. I didn't move. The apartment was dark, but I knew the layout. Closet in the hallway, then my bedroom door. The noise came again, just a thin rasp. The closet door easing shut. I stared at the strip of darker gray under my bedroom door, that little slice of hallway. I watched it change, narrowing, then disappearing like someone guided the door, closed a millimeter at a time to keep it quiet. The air went thick. I couldn't hear footsteps, but I knew whoever it was had stepped around the rug and the squeaky board. They knew the space now. They'd practiced. The doorknob to my room turned once, twice, testing. Just a soft click of metal. The chair under the front door might as well have been in another building. Whoever had gotten in before had done it without leaving a mark. Deadbolts only stop people who respect doors. I lay there and forced my chest to move as little as possible. My phone rested on the table next to me. I could have grabbed it. I didn't. It felt like any movement would light me up. The knob went still. Whoever stood on the other side stayed quiet. I could feel them listening the way you feel someone staring at you on a train. My heart pounded so loud I was sure they heard it. Time got weird. Could have been a minute, could have been an hour. At some point, the pressure on the other side of the door eased. The air stopped buzzing. No footsteps leaving, no other doors, just less weight. I stayed frozen until gray crept around the edges of the blinds and a truck roared past outside. Only then did I sit up, every muscle burning. The hallway looked empty. The closet door was shut perfectly again. Inside, all my shoes sat in a neat line, laces tucked, keys centered on top like a label. The chain on the front door was still across. The chair still jammed under the handle. Deadbolt still turned. Whoever came in hadn't needed to break anything, and they hadn't needed to leave. I didn't shower. I didn't even change clothes. I grabbed a bag, stuffed in whatever I could reach, and walked out. Locked the door out of habit, which felt like a joke, and headed straight to a friend's place. When they asked what happened, I just said, "I can't stay there," and they didn't push. I've been back with other people in daylight, long enough to grab the rest of my stuff. The closet was empty by then, shoes gone, key gone, like the space had been wiped. Landlord swears the locks are secure. Maybe they are. Maybe they never mattered. Nothing was stolen. That's the worst part. Whoever slipped in already had what they wanted: time, inches, and the map of how I live when I think nobody's watching.